Welcome back to another episode of Obliterated Companion. I'm Peter, and you guys joining me is the man himself. One of his projects, he was actually described as, or rather, they were looking for somebody with the sex appeal of Brad Pitt and someone who has a spirit of Santa Claus. Hopefully, we get to talk about that project. Does,
Whoa.
does that sound a bit of a vaguely familiar?
I thought you were talking about somebody else. I was like, oh, this
well,
is
well, well,
awkward for both of us.
Yeah, sex appeal of Brad, Chris Reed. How about I'll change the name to Chris Reed. No, Nick, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak with you. There, I did my research, but I feel it's like the same stuff out there. So I want to try to see if I can do a deep dive and find anything else about you before we get into some of your previous work. There's so a few projects that I can't wait to try to get some answers about. But you started off in shoe sales
Yeah, that
before.
wasn't by a design. That wasn't
No,
by like a brilliant business move. No, that was a
not a
yeah, man. That was
school,
like a job.
not
No
a class
college,
that they given. Okay, all right.
no technical training, nothing. That was my first LA job. That started paying the rent. Uh, was Sunset Boulevard selling shoes, and
So
that was like kind of my window into LA. I like sat there and I watched everybody with friends and money having a great time, and I would be in the shoe selling business, taking the sales rack of shoes out at the beginning of my shift. At the end of my shift, swapping the left and right shoes because of sun damage, and you didn't have to get one shoe that would fade and the other one would be brand new. So I was always swapping sale shoes outside of the sidewalk. But that's where I got my break. Someone from MTV came in there and I helped them out. And a dude named Danny Villa uh, called the shoe store and said, and I went to work and they said, hey, you have a message. And I thought I was helping somebody and they needed something. And I called and it was the person picked up goes, MTV network. And I hung up because I got nervous. I thought I called the wrong number. And I tried the number again and it said it again. And I was like, Danny? And lo and behold, it was Danny. And through like trial and error, I found myself on MTV, which was nuts. And I was a news correspondent. I was on MTV News and like I was emailing with Kurt Loder. That's an old school flashback to people. Like it was random, bizarre, unplanned, and short lived, but it was wild. It was a wild introduction. I got to meet like so many people like 6 weeks after leaving shoe selling. Like I met literally everybody in that 6 week window. I mean, I had one on ones. I did so many interviews and been on sets, and it was it was pretty awesome insight to like, oh, this is the business. Um, but I knew I didn't want to do that, and so I took the risky move, which was like they're very smart. I wasn't the first person who was like an on-air personality who wanted to do acting and be an actor. So they had some sort of like clause in a contract where they agreed to take second position to any acting job you got for like a significant reduction in your salary. So that's, you know, it's hard to work in LA. So I'm sure that deal paid for that for themselves like countless times for them. Um, but unbelievably, I got a show. And also unbelievably, I still worked for MTV. So there was like this overlap in my life where I was like shooting a sitcom, and then in the middle of the week, I would have to go shoot a bunch of MTV stuff and interviews, and then I go back to the sitcom, and it was pretty wild. it was a pretty wild existence. And then my contract came to an end, and I was like, okay, that's done, and the acting thing started going, and fortunately enough, that just kept going. But yeah, that was my launching pad, and they also taught me a lot about business too. Those guys,
The
like
shoe
that,
business.
yeah, and that was just a shoe business.
Right. You don't hear that stuff from Al Bundy, all the technicalities of being a shoe salesman, so appreciate some insight on that.
Yeah.
The trajectories of our careers are clearly on complete different paths, but I know exactly what you're talking about, kind of being in an element where you're like, I kind of have no business being here. Like I had the really cool opportunity to work Paley Fest, where I got to work the red carpet for Cobra Kai, and then I got interviews with people that I couldn't get because they were so highly profiled, and publicists were like, oh, you're a podcast kind of deal. So I'm just like really overwhelmed at that point, but it was a really cool experience that opened up a lot of doors. Obliterated, for example, here I am speaking with you. So
Mhm.
um but you're
Yeah,
also
it's
from New Jersey.
yeah. I'm a Jersey. I was born in New Jersey, but I did all my growing up in Florida.
Oh, I see.
I'm a West Palm guy. I grew up in a place called Loxahatchee. Shout out to 561. We yeah, it was interesting. There wasn't many people in Loxahatchee, but there was one person that is he's acreage. I'd say he's acreage, not really Loxahatchee, which is like the neighboring kind of area, is Jerry Lorenzo, Fear of God. We went to the same high school, and we were like two guys who lived like in the woods. And we went to like a really nice high school because there was like no other schools around. We kind of got like bussed in there. And yeah, but Florida's like my home state. Jersey is where I was born, but like Florida's my home state.
So in Florida, that's you went to school there, so that's where you kind of did like some of the drama department type stuff. I read something about like doing weekly skits, comedy, like off comedy type stuff.
Yeah, well, I went to a really nice high school. But again, I was like kind of bussed into this high school. And this high school was the nicest place I've ever been. It was like a hotel. And when I got there, I was like, it had like all these amenities. So I played football, did track and field, did weightlifting, and then they had a TV production department, and they had like almost a small sound stage. And I was like, oh, this is kind of awesome. So I did all of it. And somebody was sick, I think when I was like a sophomore or something. And me and my goofball friends thought it'd be funny if we did the morning announcements. But like to kind of make fun of it, but doing it seriously so the teachers wouldn't know we were making fun of it. But we did. And we kept looking into the camera and like winking and like nodding to like the students watching. And then we eventually took it over. And then it just became like kind of like this free form morning announcement. And then eventually by my senior year, I had like a 10-minute sketch show every Friday at my school that everyone watched. And it was pretty awesome. It was the moment in my life where I was like, man, I really would like to do this forever. And and then I had really nothing to lose, and I did backtracked and I ended up selling shoes and worked my way up.
Well, I mean, with that experience, and even in school, it sounds like that kind of gave you some sort of like experience and a little bit of confidence to do the MTV gig, right? Even if you're reading off a teleprompter, like you've done that before, right? So that wasn't foreign to you.
No, not at all. But it was fun in the setting of like I played sports in high school, but I was also in TV production. And those are two different worlds. However, there was an opportunity to take the guys I played like football with and bring them with the guys I made TV production with, which was like sight comedy. There was like a little guy and then a giant guy, and Like there was like somebody who doesn't play sports, and then like someone who's one of the nation's top recruits, and I always put them in situations where we're all together, and it was like kind of fun mix matching of everybody, and it worked out. It was great. It was really one of the most fondest memories I have of my entire life was that time.
Now, I mean, so it sounds like kind of stumbling upon that, you kind of found like this love for it. Did you have any kind of like as a youth, did you have any aspirations to kind of get into performance?
Um, Kind of, but it was a different thing. I was raised by 7 women, so it was just like 3 generations, and I was the only boy, and and everybody's kind of like my particular pack was a grumpy bunch. Still is a little bit of a grumpy bunch, but I realized as a little kid that if I made somebody laugh, they were the room was better. Everything was like a little more relaxed. So that really kind of like this sort of like making my life better through making other people laugh kind of started there. And my life was more relaxed if everybody was laughing. And it kind of just like branched out from there.
I guess it's not too dissimilar from like what would you hear of comedians, right? That's their drug, is getting that reaction from the audience.
Yeah, mine was like my mom won't chase me with a wooden spoon.
You're giving me flashbacks all of a sudden. Uh,
Dude, honestly, my mom was just out visiting me and she would tell my kids I would be bad, and then she would chase me with a wooden spoon and I would try to make her laugh while she was chasing me. And if I made her laugh, the anger she felt would leave. And I was like, and that's how you do improv. Like like that was the ground.
yeah, no, there's
Yeah.
something to that. I kind of do that with my mom as well. If I just make her laugh, it just makes things better. She
Mhm.
often compares me to like Will Smith on Fresh Prince, not the actor,
Mhm.
because that's kind of what I grew up on: Fresh Prince, Family Matters, Full House,
Mhm.
even. I mean, she'd always be like, "Oh, you just like that guy on the television show." I'm like, "Mom, it's
Oh,
Will,"
that's sweet.
Yeah, so
That's
I
sweet.
like a little bit of a mama's boy. So I
Same.
see some
Yeah.
shades of that, and we'll definitely get to Obliterated in that opening sequence.
So it looks like that looks so crazy behind me. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's quite all right.
The
It's like
alligator heads and American flags.
clearly
Well,
hunting on
sorry.
your time off. No, no, it's
No,
yeah.
honestly, that gator head's been with me for a very long time.
Is there a story behind that
Uh,
that
what's
you
the
were?
story about? That was a birthday gift before I left home, and that guy's kind of it's kind of in every shitty place I've ever lived in. That
Yeah.
was that's been on my coffee table, but now
Oh
I have
yeah.
children.
Look at the back of your house. Yeah, it looks so shitty.
No, no, I'm not now. I'm just talking about like
Yeah, yeah.
the
No,
apartment circuit you go on.
so okay, hey, another franchise that I'm a big fan of is Final Destination, and you were in
Mm.
the Final Destination, which was the 3D one. At least I don't know if there was more than one that were 3D, but this one was, you can tell, right? Like you watch it and all these things were supposed to pop. Um,
I I was just having breakfast the other day with a couple of stunt friends of mine, and we just found out through conversation that his first job was on Final, and we were having breakfast, and I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, it was like 18," and I was like, "Dude, we didn't even talk to each other," and uh, he was like, "That was the wildest set I've ever been on," and I was like, "I go, it was my first like franchise movie." So I thought they had different rules. I was like, wow, man, this is just pretty wild out here. But no, it was fun. There's stuff in Final I will never do again. That there was a guy who directed it named David Ellis. He wrote Snakes on a Plane, directed Snakes. I don't know if he wrote, but he directed Snakes on the Plane. But Dave Ellis is a stuntman, and Dave Ellis is a director, and Dave Ellis is like was a like he could talk you into doing stuff like in bro talk that you don't even realize that you agreed to something. And Dave was just like, "Hey, what they're gonna have to do in this pool thing is they're gonna harness you to the bottom of the pool, but it's gonna be fine. We're gonna give you a breathing apparatus, but you can't wear goggles or anything on your nose. But I'm gonna have the medic underwater with you, and he's just gonna have the thing on a stick, and he'll just like throw it in your hand in between takes." And I'm like, yeah. And then the day comes, and we rehearsed and stuff. But then the day comes, and they actually tied me to a bottom of a pool, and 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 I swear I was sitting there at the bottom of the pool, and it was like it had to be like the 15th foot because it was a dive pool, and it was 3D, so they wanted the effect of people being high above. And I started having the beginnings of what felt like a panic attack, and I'm sitting there breathing, and Dave, the director, was on speakers underwater. And he's like, "Hey, man," and he's just talking like nothing's going on. He was the most subtle, like, "Hey, what we're gonna do is we're gonna let the water calm down for a little bit, and we're gonna put the extras to get playful, and then we're just gonna go to you, struggle, and should be good to go. You good?" And then you just sit there, and you're like, and he's like, "All right, back up," and he just does everything from the water. And they said action, and I froze. I didn't want to let the apparatus out because when you swim, if you were in the water, you could hold your breath for like a minute, right? I could hold my breath for like, I think we timed it as like a minute 38 or something, a minute 40 or something when I'm still. But if you're moving, you get like 28 seconds before you need air because it's just different. You're exerting so much. So I really didn't want to do it anymore. But I was down there and I was tired. I was like, I just want to. This was a bad idea. And then I heard cut, and I'm like, and then Dave knew. I know David knew, and he goes, "There was this time when I was doing a stunt on a TV show, and I was in a bear costume." And he just starts telling a story, and I'm tied on the bottom of a pool. He goes, "I was in a bear costume, and the actor at the time was on narcotics. And I had to attack him, and he accidentally stabbed me with a real knife. And I was in the bear suit. And the actor goes, 'Oh my God, I stabbed you.' And I said to him, 'Don't worry about it. Let's just get the take from inside the bear suit. So why don't we just go and get this take, Nick?'" And I was just like, and then we did it, and we proceeded to do it. And to this day, by a mile, one of the most dangerous stunts emotionally I've ever done.
Yeah, I rewatched
By
that
far.
movie. No, it gave me anxiety. I rewatched the
Yeah.
whole thing last night. And can you still do the coin roll on your fingers?
You know what's funny? I think I can. However, I banged my buddy has an attack dog, and his
Oh,
attack dog freaking destroyed my finger like 5 months ago. I don't even. It's like a speed bump now if I try to do it.
oh, and you're left-handed?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. My son's a lefty. Um, the baby might be too. You mentioned a couple of kids, and we won't get into like details, but you as a father, um,
Hmm.
if you're willing to share, what was it like during the strike for you? Because Obliterated, it's about to come out. You cannot share anything, but also it sounds. I'm assuming you probably got a little bit more time with the family.
Oh no, I tell my kids, I'm like, between COVID and the strike, you guys can't say I wasn't there.
Mhm.
Like, I'm there. I've been there. But it's also like it's a bizarre gift that I know later in life I'll be so grateful that I had it. I know for a fact I'm gonna be like, I am so grateful for those series of events to occur. And like that's the only way to, I guess, look at life when it gets hard is like, what's the lesson here? What am I supposed to learn from this? And maybe my thing is I get to see my kids during a time, as you know, is fleeting. It's a short time, it's a short window.
You've done a lot, sitcoms,
Mhm.
rom-coms, we got Obliterated. Is there d- uh, did you decide to kind of go away from like your features, your big features, your theatrical release type movies? Because I feel it's kind of been like streamers and things as of late. Did that just kind of come around the same time as you becoming a dad?
No, I think Legends was 100% becoming a papa. That was like added. There are things you got to set up, as you know, when you're a dad. And Legends was an opportunity for me to, set a foundation for my family, which is, the most important thing. And they're first. This stuff that I get to do is second. Um, but yeah, also the other fun side of it is like they come with me on location. So like they have places they like, they have places they don't care for. And those places are pretty short lived. Uh, but they like it. They like it. They're like, where are we going? And I was like, we're going back to Vancouver. And they're like, and they got friends everywhere. My kids have more friends now than I've ever had in my life. Like they have friends in different like areas of LA. Like they have like three cliques of friends, pending where we are in just LA. And I'm like, how did this even happen? How is this even possible? But they got it.
Did they? Because I think they're around my younger kids as well. My youngest just turned 3 on Halloween, and then my daughter is almost 5. And do 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 your kids have like like dad's an actor, like he's on TV? Do they? Is that their reality, or like dad just goes to work and that's what that is for them?
I think it's a healthy hybrid. Um, but like working on Legends, I would take my son onto the Wave Rider if I had the day off and they weren't shooting on the Wave Rider, which is like the time ship, which was one set and it was massive. It was like had to be like 15,000 feet, like just enormous. And I would take my kid there and he and I would play on the ship. He would sit in seats and we'd run down the hallways and like, he was small, so I can't even fathom what it looked like from his perspective and what it felt like. But for me, it was like a dad dream come true. Like my little boy just wanted to play on a ship, and I was like, "Well, if you want to play on a ship, I have a ship to show you." And then we went to set. It was great. It was super fun, and like you know, my daughter has this funny thing with me where she's like, "Yeah, but you're not funny." And I was like, no, I'm like, people think I'm funny. Some people think I'm funny. She's like, Daddy, you're not funny. And I was like, Lenny, I'm, I got it. And she's just like, kids humble you in 2 seconds. There's no
Oh,
way you can get egotistical around children.
100%. If you don't mind me asking, how old's your daughter?
She's 5.
Oh, see, so
Yeah,
same age.
yeah.
I was trying to like make eating dinner fun one night, and I was like, "Honey, let's race." Like if you win, Daddy give you like like some ice cream. And she just looks me dead in the eyes like, "Daddy, it's not a competition." I'm like, "Wow."
Yeah,
So
that's
I was
about
like,
right.
"Oh, yeah, yeah." So
That's
I
about
love
right.
it. Going on 15. Um, Obliterated, right?
Mm.
I'm a little, I mean, I know you did the movie College. I was just kind of going through like some of your previous work. I was a little surprised, like, there wasn't a lot more like comedy, maybe like a College or maybe like an Obliterated. It's been
Mm.
a lot of other things. How did Obliterated come across your lap? It sounds like you read the script and you're like, I believe your words were like, I hear his voice. Like,
Yeah.
could you talk about like the draw for this character and how you heard about the project.
Well, I needed to like creatively blow off steam. And I needed something, and I needed to like really just go hard into something. And you know, that's easier said than done. You know, because in order for anything to get going, it has to be an intersect between you wanting to do the thing you want to do and that thing actually existing and that thing existing in the same time frame. And I got off a show and I read the script and I read several other things before that. And they didn't remotely give me that feeling of energy or like it was so clear. Like when I read Obliterated, it was so clear who McKnight was. It was so easy in my head who he was. And I understood the way the guys wrote. And I was just like, oh man, like I kind of have to do this. And that's what I said to them. I was like, guys, I have to do this. I was like, I have to. And I made a deal with them. I was like, I promise I won't let you down. I promise I won't be an ass. I promise I'll set a good tone. And I was like, but I really want to do this. And we got to do it. And that in its of itself is wild that you have this thing and then it's presented and it actually works out, which is insane. It never happens. But it did. And I'm so grateful for it. And yeah, the experience was everything I thought it was going to be. Like literally everything I thought it was going to be. Only my co-stars were a lot better than I could ever have imagined. Like they were the best people to be around doing this type of insane stuff. Terrence was like literally became like a kin to me in a matter of days. And
What was your guys' meeting first like? When did you first meet Terrence? Because this is gonna be, you know, McTrunk, right? Like this is gonna be
yeah,
your battle buddy is what we call them in
yeah,
the
it's your
army.
guys.
Yeah.
Um, he, I was hired, and they were like, "We're trying to close the deal on this guy for Trunk. Uh, he's gonna be great." And that's vague as hell because, like, if you read the character, like, the character's like a character, you know? And I've been around a lot of like character actors before, and the character actors are great. And then I get a voicemail, and it's from Terrence, and he's just screaming into the phone about working together. And I've never met him before. He's screaming in the phone about working together. And then we meet and we click off immediately. And then I realize, oh my God, you're so far from a character actor. You're just a wonderful talent. Like you're an extremely talented man and a good, kind person. And and to my joy, I absolutely loved working with T, and I hope to work with him again. Um, he's the best, man. My daughter had special friends day at school, and she asked T to go. So my kindergarten daughter walked in with Trunk, like like holding like my daughter's hand, and there's Terrence holding her hand, and she walked into the classroom, and that was her special friend.
He's like 6'5",
And the show,
right?
thank God, the show had not come out at that point.
Yeah.
So it was a sweet window.
Yeah, that's really cute. Because like, yeah, 6'5", your daughter probably, you
My
know.
God, my daughter's like this tall. Like it was hilarious, and they like it was so much fun. And he's man, I just love. I can't say enough nice things about everybody on the show, but I just have a special spot in my heart for T.
Yeah, I need some sort of like web series of McTrunk, you know, their days leading up to where we see them in episode 2, you know, because they've been around a lot, you know, like you pick up so
Yeah.
much in the dialogue, like the I think it's episode 5 where McKnight says something like, it's talk about like, like you didn't mind it when it slapped your ass in the shower, or I'm
Mhm.
paraphrasing, but that, like that tells you a lot about their relationship.
Yeah,
Before we get,
I would love a flashback episode of just the team of Gomez, Trunk, and McKnight. A flashback episode would be like,
if you've seen Cobra Kai, they do flashbacks, and I was just like, we got that little one in episode 2. I don't see why we can't get a few more sprinkles, but like those 3 with Gomez, like they did time together,
mhm.
and I would love to see that dynamic for real.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
Me too. I feel like it'd be super fun.
yeah,
I know it
absolutely.
would be fun.
Yeah,
Put like T in a giant beard.
yeah, 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 I
Do
love it.
shit.
uh I don't know, did you and Shelly knew each other before you guys got this? Not at all.
No, I did a chemistry read with Shelly, and as soon as it happened, I was like, "Oh God, please let this work out." Like Shelly was so obvious to me that she was like the one for the job,
You guys just
and
had that
she had
connection.
like instantly, and like we still do. Like we have Shelly and I have great shorthand, which is like when you're doing something like this, it's complicated to articulate something sometimes because you're talking about like emotions that are not real emotions, that are like fictional emotions of other people. So having a shorthand is really important. And Shelly and I have great shorthand. We have a great working relationship. Really enjoy working with her. I think she's extremely talented. Um, yeah, and we work on screen. I think I like to think so.
I think so too. The reason I asked, because like when I spoke with Eugene, I guess the joke is like Eugene just knows everybody, right? And
Yeah.
I think recently both Shelley and Eugene shared pictures with like Thomas Decker, and I believe you also know him, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
Yeah, so I just thought maybe like there was just like this little circle you guys were all part of, and it ended up on Obliterated together.
Listen, Eugene is. We were doing a weapons training day, and Eugene was there, and our military op Kevin, as you know, was our tech, who's the greatest tech in the game. Kevin Kent, long live the great, wonderful Kevin Kent. Uh, so we're like, dropping our magazines, putting new ones in, and Eugene like put his magazine, and this was like the second day. We barely knew each other. And we were in a very respectful zone with Kevin in during this time of training. So there's no fooling around, no stupidity. We were there to work, and Eugene go to slam his magazine and holds his weapon up, and his magazine just drops out and hits the ground, and like tink tink tink, and like, and we were all standing there, and I look at Terrence, and Terrence looks at Eugene, and then looks at me and goes, "Oh my God, you are Paul." And there was a good, healthy portion of this experience where we just called Eugene Paul. When he had Paul tendencies, we're like, "Okay, Paul," like what is real life. It was like it was fun, man. It was super fun. Like when we did our diner scene, our diner couple of days when we fought Elvis's, that was a fun day for us because it was the first time the 3 of us were alone, like sitting, and we weren't in a helicopter. We weren't fighting. We weren't shooting. There wasn't like 87 stunts, even though there was a very elaborate fight sequence in it. That was still considered a kind of chill day on that show, but it was nice. And Eugene's so pleasant and wonderful. And like, if you don't like Eugene, then like, that's on you, man. It's not on Eugene.
Well, I thought you were gonna maybe share, because he told me how
Wow.
there's this part where Paul is ordering off the menu, and there's like only like
Oh
10
my God.
items, and you
Oh
couldn't
my
hold a
God.
straight face, right? Can you talk about that part?
Dude. Dude, that guy took a comedic pause that wasn't even a comedic pause. It was like a comedic, I left the scene and I'm gonna come back. that man, like Terrence just runs through a laundry list of food, right? Like, and then the waitress goes, "And you?" And Eugene took so much time, and he's high in the scene, right? And then he like to look at the menu, he like put his head down and like came up, and like I was like, and I had to be pissed in the scene, so I was angry, and you could kind of hide a laugh in anger. If you're playing angry, you could hide a laugh longer because you just like distort your face. And I was just like, oh, oh, and it was rough. And then he just goes, "A plain muffin," and I'm like, oh my, because it wasn't written. That's the thing. Like everything he was doing, they were just letting it happen, and it was happening, and it was so funny, and it was one of the hard. I laughed so much on this show. I really did. I laughed my face off, and it's because of everybody I got to work with.
What's another moment like that with someone else? Did Kimmy have something like that with you?
Dude, Kimmy is a gift. Kimmy's a revelation. Kimmy is extraordinary. This show is is good because Kimmy came on. Um, Kimmy Kimmy and I had so many things where we were playing two different things simultaneously. She was like infatuated, I was oblivious. Like it was like that kind of dynamic. And then her dream sequence was wild. That dream sequence was one of the most wild days I had on the series. Uh, because it was absurd. It was ridiculous. It was a dream. It was like she was on, morphine, and she was having this dream in a hospital. And just the dialogue alone in that scene is outrageous. And yeah, we had one of the more funny sex scenes from the series.
Was it scripted for McKnight to put his finger in her mouth in that dream sequence?
No, it was her coverage, and like we were going through everything, but I asked before I did it before I take, because she had to say something over her shoulder, and I was just like sitting there, and I saw the camera angle, and I was like, "Hey, can I have that?" And she was like, "Oh my god, yes." So when it happened, it like pulled her away from Lens, which was sort of funny.
It was
Yeah,
it was perfect. Yeah, I
yeah,
saw that
it
and
was
I
great.
laughed hysterically because it's just like it's that thing that's out of frame. Like it kind of it kind of reminded me of like I think it was Austin Powers Goldmember, where he's like talking to Fred Savage and he's got the big mole,
Uh-huh.
and like he keeps drawing attention to it, and then like out of the frame you see the stick come in and just touches the
yeah,
mole.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
so it
yeah,
was very
yeah,
much like that, like Big Knight's finger going into her
yeah.
mouth, like you're not expecting that. So I love that. So that's the stuff I
Yeah, that was one of those times where like the camera made the joke. The camera setup was
yeah.
like, ooh. And then you know, Kimmy being a baller, she was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. I've asked a lot of people about this, but can you share like Christine McHugh's contribution, the intimacy coordinator, just like
Mhm.
your relationship with her, on set and what that was like for you.
Christine was like a stunt coordinator. Like all of the sex scenes were handled like stunts. Like they were choreographed, they were talked about, they were like beat it out for where they go and how they go and how far they go. And Christine was like the absolute best liaison for that sort of conversation and conversations you have to have on a weekly basis as far as this show goes. I can't imagine what her email box must have looked like from this show. Like every scene you see in the show that has any nudity or any sexual anything, it has to go through her. And this show has a lot of ridiculous moments such as that, where she's in the ball game. I guarantee you she's bored as hell at her next job. The next place she goes to, she's gonna be bored as hell. She's gonna be like, what am I here for? Like, what are you guys doing? What? Like, she was so busy and in such demand. It was fantastic. And she has like the greatest temperament, and she may have ruined me for all future intimacy coordinators.
Yeah. How are we doing on time?
It's like 2:30. Want to do another 10?
Okay, yeah. If you're
Yeah.
down, I'm happy to do it. Let's do it. In the auditioning process, was there that scene with McKnight and his mom, or is that something you found out about later?
No, it was with McKnight and his mom, but I wasn't sure if it was a scene. Actually, you know what? I was, and it did, because I read the first two episodes, and like the mom was important, and that made me really excited, because our first episode of the show, which I don't think is highlighted enough, our first episode is the beginning of a magic trick. So episode one of Obliterated is like when David Blaine starts the trick, and you're like, do you know like the trick even started yet? And that's our first episode. And shortly after that, the magic trick starts happening, until eventually you're like, oh, that was a great trick. Like, I didn't even realize it. But the first episode is the beginning of the trick. And part two with the mom was like, now the trick's getting revealed. Now we're getting into the magic trick. And that's really like, it's a testament to the guys, man. They know exactly where the heart is, right there, and they go to it, and they give it to the people you least expect to have it. And so when you meet McKnight, you would never expect him to be a mama's boy, or like from from where he's from. You just, there's this, shallow meathead, but there's a story to him, and that's what the guys are great at. They're great at finding that humanizing element to people.
Absolutely. What do you think about Eugene's scene where Paul has to talk to his daughter, you being a dad? Were you
Uh,
there on set? And when did you see kind of a more polished version of it, if not live?
didn't see it when he was when he was doing it. There's so much, like, if you we had two sets going simultaneously for a lot. So like you could be on second unit, main unit, and then wrap up your main unit day and go to second unit for like a half a day. So I wasn't there. But yeah, that stuff, come on, man. That would I would There'd probably be like, pull it back, Nick, relax, man. I'm like, you don't know.
It was good. I told Eugene that I was sobbing. I legit was crying. I have a daughter
Yeah.
just a little bit older than Minnie's character, Jenny. And I felt like myself a little bit, I haven't been away from the family at times. And my daughter being an adult, I'm not around as much because she's now living her life. And I'm like, I feel you, Paul, so yeah, couldn't help but kind of feel like getting in his shoes at that moment.
Yeah, but also the guys are dads. I mean, everyone outside of Hayden,
Yeah.
they're wonderful. They're wonderful fathers, and they have fantastic kids. So they're like, the guys are really nice people, and just like the majority of us who are even watching this or watching anything, we're at heart nice people. Our population is majority nice, and there's like a minority of not great. But when you just do something that's speaking of like love and kindness and some sort of nice place, it's going to relate more than it's not going to relate. And talking about, love of a child, that's, come on, man, that's knife through the heart kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I love
Mm.
their writing. That's why, like Joe and Lawan, I love their stuff. Bob Dearden, like just when Obliterated was
Joe,
announced, just the fact that, okay, first off, I call them the big three, right? So I coined that back in the Cobra
Mhm.
Kai days, the big three, John, Josh, and Hayden. When they announced Obliterated and gave us an idea what it's about, I'm like, I'm there. And then when I found out, Joel was going to be directing a couple of the episodes
Mhm.
and some of the writers, I'm like,
Joel is great.
this is amazing. Yeah. So yeah, I interviewed
He's
him
got some
too, and
great
this,
episodes in Obliterated.
oh,
Joel.
incredible. 3 and 6,
Yeah.
3 and 6 are really great. So
Yeah.
as we get ready to wrap up, let's talk about a couple scenes. On the helicopter, this you know a bathroom joke, about literally a bathroom joke where Ava has not been able to go.
Mm.
She's got to pee. It just such a comical scene. Can you run through like filming and what that was like?
That was actually like one of the more like higher stress stunts for me because we had a helicopter and it had to be 3 stories in the air and it was tilted on its side and I was dangling out of it. So like it looked like the helicopter was going to fall on me as I hang from it and like I'm hanging 3 floors up with holding Tommy for only a couple of times. I had Tommy, but I had a stunt guy and I was hanging there. And our first AD at the time, a dude named Dieter, shout out to Dieter. Like we had fans going, it was so loud. And the P wasn't reading appropriately. So Dieter took it upon himself to handle that because we were short on time. So they're like, action. And then Dieter, for whatever reason, took the whole can and just threw it at me in the face with the whole can. And I remember getting hit by it. And during the take, being like, Dieter, what are you doing? And he was like, all right, let's go again. And then we just tried. And the next time he did it, and it was perfect. And then I got pulled up. And when they pulled me back in and took all the harnesses off, I'm like, in what world is that a pour? I'm like, you just threw a whole can of liquid at my face. He's like, hey, bud, was trying to do my best. He got me, man.
Yeah, I love it, and I told Shelly like she really commits to her comedic scenes too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if anyone's out there saying like, oh, she doesn't do enough funny stuff, but I would love to see more of that stuff from her in
She's
the
very funny.
future.
Yeah.
Hilarious. What about the episode 2, the strip club, Big Willie's? What do you remember? From Janet to the fight
Oh my God.
sequence.
Janet's so funny. The fight sequence was it was happening in a lot of places I remember and just like jumping in here and there. But I remember one thing about it is that when we went to Big Willie's and it was revealed that Trunk goes there and Trunk stays there, like you won't be able to notice it unless you pay attention to it. But I started staring at Terrence as soon as we walk in there and that guy walks up to him. And I start staring at him in such a way, and I don't look at anybody else or anything else that's happening. I just stare at Terrence the entire time of just like daggers through him, like you son of a bitch, like just that look on. And Terrence couldn't look at me, and it was just the two of us, like in on this. Everybody else was like, "What the hell are you two doing?" But I was just like, McKnight was so mad at Trunk. And I was just like giving him that Michael Scott, Toby scare. And I was just like giving it to him. And yeah, that was a fun moment at Big Willie's. Uh yeah, that place was wild. That seems wild. It's also like sort of fun, like overall environment. It was fun. It's just a funny scene. It's a funny world there.
It's it's a great episode directed by Josh Heald, one of the creators for those that
Gosh.
don't know. Yeah, just incredible episode, episode 2 and 10, or 8 rather. Um,
Yeah.
and let's end it with this last couple of minutes here. What, because so many things happen in the show, and I can only imagine all the stuff that was cut out. Is there something that
Mm.
you can remember that was cut that you wish that maybe the audience could have seen?
Oh man. Yeah.
First thing that comes to
Honestly,
your mind.
no.
Okay.
No, honestly, no. Everything I saw in the show was there. And like they put everything was good. Like that was the thing. Everything was good and everything stayed. They didn't write a lot of like extra stuff. Like there wasn't like hidden things here or there that I can recall. So there was nothing like left on the floor outside of like
There was a
I don't even know.
you guys got pulled over. The party bus
Oh
gets
yeah,
pulled over. Yeah.
we threatened a cop, which
Oh no,
they
I
cut
didn't know
out.
that.
Yeah,
I didn't know you guys threatened the
yeah,
cop.
yeah. I didn't know till you just said it. Yeah, a cop gets on the party bus and I don't know. We just kind of maybe rough them up a bit or like something, but it wasn't our best. But yeah. By the way, I love when people say John Josh Hayden very fast together as like one person. John Josh Hayden.
John
Because
Josh
they
Hayden,
are
yeah.
one person. John Josh
They
Hayden.
really, and that's why like when I first started Cobra Kai, I was actually saying their full name, John Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossberg and Josh Hill. I was like, I need something easier, and I'm a big NBA fan, and so I go
Mm,
the big three. They're the big three,
yeah.
So now we just call them TB3 on social media.
TV3. Wow.
TB3, the
Yeah. There
big
you go.
three, so TB3 or John Josh and Hayden. So I've
John
gotten
Josh
Kimmy
Hayden.
to say it, Bobby Montel Bush also referred to them as the big three, and now Eugene. So Nick,
Oh
if you
man.
want to call them the big three, that's a
Oh man.
freebie.
I have a thing where Terrence and I on set when we would be either like somewhere freezing or somewhere hot or somewhere where it was just like difficult. T and I would be like, John, John Josh, John Josh Hayden, John, Josh, John Josh Hayden. And it was just eventually somebody in sound would be like, I think the guys are looking for you. And then one of them would show up and it's like, would you guys need something? We're like, oh, no, man. That's sort of like our mantra. We just say to each other to check in is John Josh Hayden,
Is
John
is
Josh
it?
Hayden.
It's almost like one of those actors with the three first names or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
They're the three first name boys. They're wonderful guys. They're super talented, and I hope we get a second season. It's a great show to binge if you haven't watched it yet. Like, get
Yeah.
in on it, man. Get in on it.
And it sounds like you already got an insight for the outline of a possible season two if and when Netflix greenlights it.
Yeah, I'm privy to what goes down in season two, and it's man, if you love it, you're gonna love two. And the guys have always said that each season isn't like any season we get to do after the first one is a sequel. It's not
Nice.
season two, it's a sequel. And that sequel takes place in different places, like most sequels do. Like there's Die Hard and there's Die Hard 2. So this one I got a little intel on and hopefully we get to do it because if we get to do it, it really there's so many fantastic payoffs that now we got all the legwork out of the way in the first season, all the heavy lifting is done. Now you know your characters and we can put them anywhere and the guys already like they got excited and they did a lot of work for season two already. So let's
I
just make it happen. Watch it.
Absolutely. I can predict the first episode. McKnight is gonna go grab Trunk from Lady Gaga and said, I need you for this next mission. That's it.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
There it is.
That'd be awesome.